All right, we're ready to go.
Okay, great. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome. This is the first time we've had a candidate forum, certainly in this manner. So as everything is these days, so we're really glad to have you, and thanks for participating. We have a number of our staff online who are experts in their field, so be able to share information with you. And I would just ask that you use the mute your line, but use the chat feature if you'd like to ask a question. And we'll probably try to take questions toward the end of the presentation so we can get through everything. So put your question in the chat or keep a record of it, something like that. But I'm Nancy Sharp. I'm the chair of the board this year, and my district is District 2, which pretty much covers Greenwood Village, a very large part of the city of Centennial, and unincorporated kind of around the Cherry Creek Reservoir. But I go kind of almost from Broadway to east of Parker Road. So, and we have 5 districts, and we'll get into some of that information in a little bit, but want to welcome you all. And we are going to go over a little bit about the county, the role of county commissioners, and then our department directors and offices are going to have overviews of their elected offices and their departments. And as I said, then we'll have lots of time, I hope, for question and answer. So next slide. So we're going to start off with just some basics about the county, that we have 13 cities, and we're about 800 square miles, 72 miles long, and about 11 miles wide. So long and narrow, urban, suburban, rural characteristics, which makes our county very interesting and challenging, because we're always considering each one of the impacts to each one of those areas and the and the decisions that we make. We have 9 school districts, and the kind of shocking number is 433 local special districts. Those are fire districts and water boards and those kinds of districts. And so it's a challenge to keep up with all of those, but they do perform really good function. So next, Michelle. So a little bit more about the county, and you can read here, median age is almost 37, 60% white, 20% Hispanic, 10% Black, 6% Asian. Our median household income is almost $77,000 a year, and 63% of our housing is homes. And we have a little over 8% of our residents live below the poverty line. And you can see the projection that we're working with in terms of how the county is going to grow in the future in the next 10 years, which is pretty astounding. Another 150,000 people. That's something else that we really work hard to plan for. What are the impacts of that growing population and on our roads and all the services. And so that's how we do our planning. Our next slide is just basically, and Commissioner Jackson is going to go into what commissioners do, but counties are responsible with the health, safety, and welfare of residents. And that's one thing we take very, very seriously. And particularly, I think, with this COVID-19 right now, as we all know, health and safety of our residents is primary. And we work with very closely with our Tri-County Health, our county health department. That includes Arapahoe, Adams, and Douglas. We are a county. Counties are a subdivision of Colorado state government. And so we basically, just to put it simply, we do what the state government and legislature tells us we can do, and we are limited in what we can do by statute. I think one of the interesting things is that cities do have a lot more flexibility than counties do in many ways, and that's largely because we are an arm of the state. And next, so our budget is about $430 million. Our general fund, and I'll back up a little bit. Our general fund, in the state, there are 64 counties. 8 of them are still have their general fund subject to Tabor, and Arapahoe is one of those counties. So our general fund is approximately half of what our county budget is. Roughly 1/3 is funded by federal and state governments. Those are that's funding that goes to human services, community resources, some funding for transportation. And what's I think really important, and we're very proud of, is that we have one of the lowest mill levies among the counties along the Front Range. And I think we're proud of that. We're trying to keep our mill levies low. It's make our county a more affordable place to live. Just over half of the revenues collected come from taxes. Property tax, you'll see on here, property tax, specific ownership tax, sales tax, and use tax. We do have about almost 2,300 full-time equivalent positions, and salaries and benefits are, as you would expect from in most organizations, the majority of our compensation or our expenses are related to salaries and benefits. And next slide. So we had this when we were talking about the jail and the need for a new jail. We worked on this slide just to let people know how much where their tax dollars go. And you can see on here that the county only keeps about 15% of the property taxes that are collected. You may look at your tax statement and say, oh, I'm spending all this money, paying all this money in taxes. But the reality is that only about 15% of that stays with the county. The rest, the largest part, goes for schools, and then fire, water, library, all those special districts, the 433 special districts that I mentioned earlier. And then 7% goes to cities and towns. We do have one sales tax, and that's an open space. It's 1/4 cent sales tax, and that all of it goes to open spaces, and so cannot be used for anything else, and that's our only sales tax revenue. So as you would imagine, as everybody has been for the last few months, pandemic, we've been spending a lot of time on pandemic response and recovery, trying to figure out initially how we kept business going in the county and continued to serve our citizens, and then more recently, how we safely open our offices for our employees, as well as all of those citizens who want to come in and transact business. So you're going to hear a little bit more about those things too. And we've gone to more appointments than we had before, because we have to kind of control the number of people who are coming into the building and lines and things like that. So a lot of time spent on that. And we know that the cities, certainly because sales tax, when their revenues are down, people are not shopping and going to restaurants and things like that, their revenues take a pretty significant hit right off the bat. But in the county, because we are largely property tax funded, our property taxes will continue to remain at the level they are till the next property tax assessment period. But fees and some of the other things like that we are subject to will be reduced. We know that will happen some this year and certainly into 2021, but the largest impact probably be in 2022 for our county. A couple of things that are really on our radar is the transition of the 18th Judicial District. And I mentioned Tri-County Health a little bit ago, but Douglas County, it has decided to not participate with Tri-County Health. It's been Adams, Arapahoe, Douglas. And so we are working with them and with Adams County to figure out a transition plan over the next couple of years to move us all in the direction of still retaining a high quality health department, but maybe on a little bit different governance basis. So we're working through that. That's a very high priority. You've probably also read about the transition of the 18th Judicial, that Arapahoe will be the only county in the 18th Judicial. It's been 4 counties, Lincoln, Elbert, and Douglas, and we are today the largest judicial district in the state with over 1 million people. So that was one of the reasons for splitting up that judicial district and planning for that. And we have to work through the legislature to make sure that we know how that happens and works very well and seamlessly. That will take place. We're working toward that, but 2023. So there are a lot of things on our plate, and we always have the state legislative changes to public safety. There's a big one this year, human services, and many things that impact our budgets. We always kind of complain about unfunded mandates that the legislature likes to pass along to us, and then our budgets become responsible for those increases. And it may be increases in staff or mandated things that we have to do that are now mandated. And but often money does not come with that. So we have to be figuring out how we continue to do more with less and less. And so it's a challenging budget situation. And as I mentioned, we are one of 8 counties out of 64. We are one of 8 counties out of 64 that our general fund is subject to TABOR. So we are limited. I think that helps us to be frugal, yet we're always looking at how we can provide the highest quality services that we can to our citizens, how to improve efficiencies across the board at our county. And I think this pandemic has really helped us to focus on some of those things and do better, that maybe we wouldn't have thought of all the things that we have, our staff and our team across the county and our offices have all really developed to keep things going. So I'm very proud of everything that our employees across the county and our leadership have done to make this a seamless transition. And I think, go ahead, Michelle. So I'm now going to turn it over. And again, just make write down your comments or put them in the chat. And I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Nancy Jackson, District 4. Welcome, Nancy.
Commissioner Jackson, you might be muted.
I think you are.
I am
there
muted,
you go.
And I
okay.
didn't put my video on either. Okay, I do exist. Sorry about that. I'll start again. So anyway, I'm Nancy Jackson, and Nancy Sharp and I have been serving together as kind of a cohort, and so that's why she and I are doing the presentation tonight. And so my part is to talk about the role of county commissioners. And I will tell you, and other commissioners will tell you, the most common question you will get as you introduce yourself to voters is, well, I'm kind of embarrassed about this, but what does a county commissioner do? And so we're going to go through a little bit of what commissioners actually do. I will tell you my shorthand version is we go to meetings. We go to lots and lots of meetings. Another piece that you need to know is that we don't have a county manager. And so because of that, we are, this first bullet here, we oversee the county departments. And you will hear later from the department chairs and the department heads. But we have a liaison arrangement so that we each have liaisons with different departments every year. And we have what's called an E-team, which is the departments and the elected deputies, or the deputies of elected offices meet together and come up with some recommendations or sound out different policies. But basically, with the county commissioners, as it is said, the buck stops here. And so we are responsible for the county departments. As such, we hire the management team. So all of the directors that you're going to be hearing from later on, we actually hire them. We do the interviewing and make the decisions on our director level folks. We administer the county services. That's part of our management hat. So making policy decisions, the departments come up with recommendations. We do, are we going to do raises or performance incentives? All of that we decide with the help of our HR department and others. We're responsible for the budget, and that's a really huge part of what we do. Again, we don't have a budget man. Well, we have a budget department and we have a finance department, but the commissioners sit on the executive budget committee. Two of us do, and then bring the recommendations to the rest of the commissioners. So that administration piece of the county is huge for Arapahoe County commissioners. We also approve land use decisions within unincorporated Arapahoe County, and of course within the cities or the incorporated areas, that would be up to the mayors and the city councils. But within the unincorporated areas, we approve the land use decision. So if someone wants to build something, if they want to change a zoning law, all of those things come before us for decisions. We have had extensive tutorials, if you will, and sessions on oil and gas use, because there is oil and gas drilling in the eastern part of the county. So we had to really understand that. We've had extensive sessions on marijuana and whether or not to have marijuana shops or recreational marijuana. By the way, we have 4 marijuana stores in unincorporated Arapahoe County. They were for a while medical only, and we just recently passed an ordinance to allow those 4, and only those 4, to sell recreational marijuana. So I mentioned the budget. And we also act as the Board of Equalization. So when people think that their property taxes are too high, for some reason they don't say that their property taxes are too low, so we don't get those. But we are officially the Board of Equalization. Actually, we have appointed someone to do most of that work for us, but we review those protests and the negotiations that have resulted, so that we understand what those protests are about. We have a lot of advisory committees and boards, everything from our Fairgrounds Advisory Committee. We have all kinds of other kinds of committees. We have a Cultural Arts Committee and so on and so forth that give us advice and help us understand the kind of a citizen's point of view on various aspects of county. And then we sit on a lot of national, state, and regional boards and committees. So everything from C470 board, DRCOG, National Association of Counties, boards and committees. We sit on mental health boards. We sit on chambers of commerce boards, on economic development boards. We really, really sit on a whole lot of boards. Was that a hint that my time is up? We sit on a
No,
lot
that
of
was an
boards.
error. Sorry. My apologies.
That's okay. I just thought it was time to get going. So we are busy. Officially, we meet on Mondays and Tuesdays all day long, but I will tell you that we are all busy with our various boards and commissions during the rest of the week, as well as meeting with citizens and representatives of the various cities and other counties and so on. We also interact with the other officials. We have tonight with us, the sheriff and the clerk and recorder. I don't know if the assessor's here tonight, but we have what we call an A team. And so we meet quarterly at least to discuss issues of common interest. The Board of County Commissioners is also responsible for all of the budgets. So even though we can't tell or don't want to tell the other elected officials how to spend their money, we do, if you will, hold the purse strings and control the budget for all the departments. So we do interact, and I'm very, very pleased to say that Arapahoe County, I believe, and I hope, we have very good relationships with all of our elected officials. And I hope that as time goes by, that continues, because really, no matter what our political points of view, I really sincerely believe that the role of a county commissioner is to do what's best for the county, and things like land use and various kinds of decisions that we have to make are really financial decisions and so on, are not political, and it seems to work really, really well that way. Not to say that we don't have different points of view, because we do. So regionally, again, we participate in a number of boards and commissions. We belong to CCI, Colorado Counties, Inc., where we go and talk about legislation and different, we work with the state and hopefully influence legislation so that it benefits the county. We're not always successful, but we have good relationships with our local legislators, and most of the time they at least listen to us as we go forward and try to suggest to them what influence, what impact legislation would have on counties. So we do a lot of that kind of thing, as well as managing the budget and managing our departments. So with all of that, and there's a lot, as you can see, and we didn't really dive into the details, but I know that our department heads will give you a much better idea of the kinds of things that the county gets involved with. And so to that end, I'm going to kick off the department head conversations with handing this off to our really important county attorney, Ron Carl. So Ron, take it away.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. So, yes, I'm Ron Carl. I'm the county attorney. I've been in this position for the last 8 years, and I've been in the county attorney's office for almost 25 years now. The county attorney's office is essentially a full-service in-house law firm for the county. We have about 56 staff right now, spread out amongst 2 offices. One office is over in the Centerpoint building in Aurora, and they handle primarily human service related matters. And then the other office is at the administrative building on Prince Street in Littleton, and that office handles pretty much everything else. Each county department and office within the county has an attorney assigned to it as the lead attorney. And I'm the lead for the Board of County Commissioners. And we advise and represent all elected officials, all directors, employees, and boards and committees on virtually all legal matters that the county gets involved in. It can be everything from contracts to employment matters to advising on compliance with laws and regulations, to land use matters, real estate matters, property tax matters. The list goes on and on and on and on. It literally does. And lately we've been spending a lot of time in a new area, which is pandemic law. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of issues to deal with related to the pandemic. That's not something I learned in law school. It's kind of something I've had to learn as I go. Included in our services is we handle most of the lawsuits that the county gets involved in. We rarely farm anything out to outside counsel. We find that saves the county a lot of money by us handling lawsuits in-house. And a couple other things that we're involved in. We have a subdivision for risk management, and they handle things like workers' comp and insurance claims, and they procure our insurance, the county's insurance. And then also we run the County Board of Equalization process every year. So basically, in a nutshell, that's what the county attorney's office does. And so I'm now going to introduce the next director who will be presenting, who is Michelle Halstead. She is the Director of Communication and Administrative Services.
Thanks, Ron. So I'm Michelle Halstead. I've been with Arapahoe County since January of 2019. And prior to coming to the county, most of my experience has been at a municipal and state government level, as well as the private sector. So the Communication and Administrative Services Department has 18 employees, and we provide the following services and functions. We support the Board of County Commissioners by coordinating weekly study sessions and their regular business meetings. We administer their aid to agencies nonprofit grant program, as well as the Countywide Youth Award Program. We implement those board-appointed citizen advisory commission and committees, the mechanics of it, and we coordinate our state and federal advocacy activities. We also collaborate with economic development partners across the county, and we facilitate daily activities and commissioner initiatives. The department also provides coordinated internal and external communication support for our county departments and offices. Each department and office, excluding the sheriff, has an assigned business partner to support their unique communication needs. And we leverage a variety of tools to share information and foster two-way engagement on those county programs and services across the county with our very diverse audiences. We also manage and implement the county's website and social media strategy, and we deliver a consistent media messaging with a dedicated county public information officer. One thing the county has is an in-house print shop, so we're actually able to produce a lot of large and small format printing needs for every department and office in the county, and that helps save some outsourcing funding. And some of the initiatives we've been focused on outside of the pandemic, because we're all dealing with that, is we've been trying to increase the county's 2020 census response rate above the 2010 level. The census is certainly an important tool in the mechanics of getting federal and state funding. And I'm proud to say we're currently at 72%, which is higher than the final response rate from 2010. We're also looking at improving the strategy and the consistency of our county communications and how best to increase engagement with residents and businesses, both in online and traditional formats and non-traditional formats. And finally, we've been working on streamlining business processes to improve accessibility and efficiency for the operations. So now I'd like to introduce Don Clemmy, who's our Director of Community Resources.
Well, good evening. Don Clemmy, Community Resources Department Director. I've been with the county for 15 years, and prior to that, I was with the District Attorney for 18 years. So I've been working in one way or another with the Arapahoe County government for a long time. The Community Resources Department is one of 2 departments in the county that provides services that are outward facing, serving vulnerable populations and promoting well-being. We have 185 employees, and the way I have structured the department is to have each of my 7 actually divisions report directly to me. So I have a division manager in charge of each of the divisions that are shown here on the chart in the green: Administrative Services, Arapahoe Douglas Works, CSU, Extension, Housing Community Development, Senior Resources, Judicial Services, and Weatherization. Then I also have a relationship with the Communications Services Department for public relations purposes and public information purposes. And I also have a business partner from Human Resources that participates in my team. Next one, please. Okay, so the Arapahoe County Community Resources Department has an annual budget of $33 million, just over $33 million. We are 87% grant funded, and we have 5 major funding streams, which include HUD, Department of Labor, Health and Human Services, and a few others. And I don't know where that picture came from, I'm sorry. We have, actually, interestingly enough, we have 3 different fiscal years depending on what grant we're working with, so that can get rather confusing. And our largest divisions are the Workforce Center, Arapahoe Douglas Works, Judicial Services, Weatherization, and Housing Community Development. Okay. Next picture, please. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these charts. I just want to show you the type of services, programs that we have under each of our divisions. So for Administrative Services, you'll see in the program column, we have financial management, grant administration, administrative support, volunteer connections. And for each of those categories, we have a result measurement that is appearing in the far right. Next one, please. Okay, Arapahoe Douglas Works is by far our largest division, and our most employees are located there. We have approximately, depending on the grants that we have, it ranges between 85 and 100 employees. We have workforce centers in Aurora and in Centennial at Lima Plaza. And our career services division of Arapahoe Douglas Works has a business engagement section, which you'll see there. And presently under the COVID CARES Act, we are working on the business recovery grants to businesses that apply for services and for assistance. But you'll see under career services, the Workforce Resource Center, business engagement, training, youth programs, and programs for older folks. You can go on to the next slide. Still with AD Works, we have poverty prevention programs that we contract with Human Services on, which includes programs to provide the work element for TANF folks, people that are receiving food stamps, and people that are in a innovative program where if they're required to pay child support, we're helping them find jobs so that they can pay their child support. We also work with justice-involved people trying to help them get jobs. Next one, please. And then we also work under a federal act called the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. And you'll see the different types of programs that are available under that. Next one, please. And we have under Workforce Investment Board, We have a board that consists of at least 51% private sector businesses, and they deal with economic development, education alignment to make sure our training programs are matching the needs of the business community. Okay, next one, please. We also work with CSU. In each of the counties of the state, there's a CSU extension office, and they always ask that there be some type of a liaison in the county to the program, and that happens to be in the Community Resources Department. You'll see the type of programs that are offered through CSU Extension: youth development, 4-H, agricultural support, horticultural support, family consumer education, and community and entrepreneurial support. And about half of the employees in CSU Extension are state-funded employees from CSU, and half are county-funded employees. Next slide, please. Housing and community development. This is where we administer our housing and urban development funds from the federal government. We deal directly with HUD. And you'll see we have housing programs, we have community development services, which range from programs that deliver Meals on Wheels all the way out to curb and gutter projects that are in low-income neighborhoods, and a lot of things in between. And we also have housing projects where we try to provide low-income housing to people that are in need of those types of services. Next slide, please. Judicial Services is another division in the department, and this particular division works with the justice involved. We have four different programs. Community Corrections, where we administer the Community Corrections program for the entire 18th Judicial District. We have pretrial supervision, where we supervise people that are on a pretrial basis who have bonded out of jail and have a condition of being supervised while they're out of jail. Alternative Services, this is the program where if someone is sentenced by the court to work community service hours, that is the program that supervises them. And then we also have a criminal justice planning function. And then my final slide, I believe. I'm sorry, I have two more slides. Senior Resources, we provide programs and services at the lower end of a continuum of services for senior citizens. We provide basic homemaker services to keep people in their homes, transportation services to provide rides for them to get to medical sites as well as to grocery stores, chore services to do major projects around the house on a one-day basis. And we do a lot of ombudsman work, trying to work with the seniors to answer, and their families to answer questions. We also have a Veteran Service Office that provides services to the veteran community to help them access the benefits that they deserve after they've been discharged out of the military on a good basis. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the final slide. We have the Weatherization program, and this is a two-county program, as is the Workforce Center, which is Arapahoe and Douglas. This program happens to be Arapahoe and Adams County, and we go into the homes of low-income families and provide energy audits, determine what type of energy assistance is necessary, and then we're able to provide actual energy efficiency upgrades like insulation, furnace replacement, refrigerator replacement, and it's 100% funded by federal government grants, state grants, and credits from Excel Energy. So that is all that I have on my presentation, and I believe, help me out here, Michelle, who is next? Is it Mr. Hawes, Dick Hawes, from Facilities Management? Thank you.
Thank you, Don. My name is Dick Hawes, and I'm the Director of Facilities and Fleet Management. In general, Facilities and Fleet Management is the county's property and motorized vehicle managers. We operate through 4 business units that maintain, clean, and manage capital project works for county facilities, as well as manage the procurement and maintenance of the county's motorized vehicle fleet. Next slide, please, Michelle. So these are our 4 business units. Facilities management. Basically, facilities management performs all the maintenance and upkeep of our facilities, including our heating, ventilating, and air conditioning, our electrical maintenance, and our grounds maintenance. And they are also responsible for managing our environmental cleaning folks who clean our facilities. We have a project management office that does all of our capital improvements work, manages all our capital improvements work, including our capital repair and replacement work, such as roof replacements, chiller replacements, and that sort of equipment replacement for our facilities. The project management office also manages our video conferencing equipment and ensures that our security systems are working properly. We also have a fleet management division, which is responsible for procuring and maintaining all of our motorized vehicle fleet assets. And then lastly, we have an administrative division that is responsible for ensuring that invoices get processed, our budget gets developed, and they also manage our warehouse operations and our mail distribution services. Next slide, please, Michelle. So this is basically our mission statement. We're trying to provide a responsive and cost-effective management services for facilities, capital building projects, and we strive to do that through achieving performance excellence through data-driven measurements. We have a very robust set of performance metrics that we use. We also try to create a culture of excellence and employee satisfaction through open communication and collaboration. And lastly, we want to provide superior services for all internal and external customers of facilities and fleet management. We are basically a back office organization, but what we try to do is prioritize our goals to ensure that we support our citizen-facing operations. Each year, we reset our long-term strategic plan, or our strategic plan, basically to ensure that we're aligned with the Board of County Commissioners' priorities. 2020 was a year when we reset our long-term strategic plan, and this is just a list of our short and long-term goals that came from that effort, along with our long-term goals. And again, next slide, please, Michelle. And as I said, we have a very robust scorecard with performance metrics that, again, try and measure how we're performing as an organization and supporting our citizen-facing operations. This is just a list of some of the things that we measure. We measure our work order response. We measure our direct labor hours. We look at our building maintenance and repair preventative maintenance program to ensure we're performing all those tasks. And then we measure our energy management efforts to ensure that we are utilizing good processes to reduce the amount of natural gas, electric, and water usage throughout the county. So that's kind of what we do, and I'm going to now introduce our finance director, Todd Weaver, to talk a little bit about what he does as the finance director.
Good evening. As Dick said, I'm Todd Weaver. I'm the finance director. The finance department is the primary financial support for not only the Board of County Commissioners, but also the elected offices and departments. Our finance department has the usual functions you would imagine would be within a finance department in a local government. We have an accounting division, a budget division, a purchasing division, accounts payable and payroll, as well as an SAP business operations division. In accounting, it's the day-to-day fund and grant accounting transactions, reviewing journal entries, providing support to the elected offices and departments. I should probably explain that a lot of the financial activities at Arapahoe County are decentralized. You've heard it a few times in some of my colleagues' presentations prior to mine. They all may have internal staff who process invoices and manage their internal budget, as the subject matter experts are located there. Their finance folks can confirm goods receipt or services rendered. And then all those transactions filter through our processes here at the county and come to the finance department before for a final approval before the payments are issued, or the request for proposals are issued, or the budget is adopted. So the accounting division, they prepare our annual financial statements. We just presented those to the Board of County Commissioners this morning after completing them a month or so ago. They also are the financial expertise when it comes to financial policies and processes, implementing those internal controls to make sure that we're doing our best to prevent fraud and waste with taxpayer dollars. The budget division assists in the annual budget development process. They kind of manage the process and help lead the organization through that. We have an executive budget committee made up of 2 commissioners and then a director and an elected official that kind of pour over all that budget information that we consolidate and aggregate for them and make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners for an adopted budget each December. Once the budget year starts, that division is involved in the monitoring and the forecasting and analysis of how we're doing throughout the year, budget versus actual. We do quarterly fiscal updates for the Board of County Commissioners and the departments and elected offices to keep everybody apprised as to where we are, where we've been, and where we think we're going to go. The purchasing division assists with the procurement needs for all of our departments and offices. That includes bids, requests for proposals, requests for qualifications. Essentially, their goal is to try to get the best value for every taxpayer dollar that we're going to spend. So they work closely with the client departments and office to make sure that the commodities and the services they need, that we're following the best practices for how those are purchased. Accounts payable and payroll. The accounts payable folks, as you would imagine, review all the payments that go out from the county and run those payments twice a week. And then we have a biweekly payroll that our payroll folks monitor and manage that make sure that all 300 of our employees in Arapahoe County get paid timely and accurately. And then last but not least, we have an SAP Business Operations Division. SAP is our financial system for Arapahoe County. They provide the support and they help maintain and develop the functionality to keep that financial system working well. In cooperation with the IT folks that also support that system. But a lot of our financial transactions and processes run through that system, and making sure that those are accurate and functioning, make sure that the rest of the financial process moves smoothly. All of those functions are comprised of 30 high quality employees that we love to work as a team, and our budget's about $3.6 million for the finance department. Next slide, Michelle, please. So I also want to take a moment to kind of talk about some of our multi-county functions. As alluded to earlier in some of the comments from the commissioners, we also fund a portion of the district attorney's office for the 18th Judicial District, as well as our Tri-County Health Department. The district attorney's office obviously is responsible for the prosecution of crimes within the judicial district, and more specifically Arapahoe County for our funding. They also provide services that relate to victim assistance and juvenile diversion. We, Arapahoe County, are about 64% of the population of the 18th Judicial District. Their total district attorney budget is about $25 million and is made up of about 225 personnel. When we break that down by the 64%, in 2020, Arapahoe County is investing nearly $16 million in the 18th Judicial District District Attorney's Office. Switching over to the Tri-County Health Department, if people didn't know what the Tri-County Health Department did prior to this year, the pandemic has certainly raised the profile of what a health department does. They serve Adams, Arapahoe, and Douglas counties. Public health, restaurant inspections, immunizations, nursing services, that's just a few of the many services that they provide. Vital records is included in there as well. They receive funding not only from the counties on a per capita basis, but also from the state of Colorado and a number of public health funding sources provided by the federal government. The budget is, at least for the county component, is based on population. We are 43% of the Adams, Arapahoe, Douglas, Tri-County area, and they have a total budget of just over $40 million. A lot of that comes from state and federal funding, but at least in the county component, Arapahoe County funds the Tri-County Health Department at about $5 million per year. So those are kind of the areas that, in addition to finance, we wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of and understand how they're funded and what services they provide. Now I want to pass it to my colleague, Patrick Hernandez, who is the Human Resources Director. Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. My name is Patrick Hernandez. I've been with the county a little over 11 years, and I only have one slide. So it's very busy. I'm not going to cover every line item, but I'll highlight a few points in each one of these buckets. So looking at the upper left-hand bucket, some of the things I do are more on the strategic side too with the entire department. I'm also the lead of our SEAL program, and the SEAL program is our high potential program made up of mid-level with the potential to go to a director level or a higher than mid-level position. That's a year-long formal program. Right now we have 7 people in that program. And it's a year of formal training, and then they have a project that they work on. We do have a 457 deferred compensation plan. So it's called the Smart Start program, and it is like a 401k program in the private sector. So this is voluntary. This is not our retirement plan, and I am the chair of that. And then also I handle all the board interactions, although my people do a lot of interactions on proposals and so forth. If you look to the right, okay, Mary Vanderoff is our Human Resources and Talent Manager. It says she's responsible for employee relations, and what we mean by that is she has a set of HR business partners that are assigned to all departments and offices, and they work with the elected official or the director with handling employee complaints, resolution, and so forth. They also have a proactive piece to that, in that they do preventative management training, such as preventing harassment, coaching programs, effective documentation, and so forth. She's also responsible, as you can see, for recruitment and retention and the performance appraisal process that we have at the county. One of her folks is also responsible for the leave and ADA administration. And as you know, and probably heard with all the government regulations now, there's a lot of activity in that particular area. Moving down to the left quadrant, Dusty Sash is responsible for a total compensation strategy. And what is that? In a nutshell, it's to keep us competitive with our front range. We call them competitors, so they're mostly counties. So that total compensation is compensation. It's also benefits. So we're very competitive in benefits, and also holidays and so forth and so on. They are very proud of the well-being program that they put into effect. And they've expanded well-being not just from a physical perspective, but also from a financial perspective, from a social perspective, and also like a mental perspective. So it's been very, very helpful. We believe, and will be more helpful in times that we're going through now. Over to the right bottom, learning and development consultant is Andy Cornell. He is responsible for providing annual strategy on leadership development. And leadership development is not just about management training. It's about employee training as well. So you definitely have to do that, because there are future leaders, or some of them are leaders already. He's also the lead on the LEAD program, which is another high potential program, which is targeting non-management to management and first level to second level. So I believe they have about 15 participants in that at the time right now. We have an online learning management system that he is the administrator on, and he is always doing something in consultations and coaching around personal development plans, team development plans, and so forth. Some of our challenges, because some of our challenges really are COVID. I think things that are around COVID. It's the legislation that's been passed. So there's a lot of additional work that not just has to be done by HR, but also the departments and the offices. We have to track leaves. We have to report the leaves and so forth and so on. We're waiting to see what the schools do. And I think a lot of people are right now too, because the FFCRA, the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, I had to write that down, provides emergency sick leave. And one of those areas where they provide emergency sick leave or require the organizations to do that is around lack of childcare. Okay, so we face, and not just HR, but we all face a challenge of staffing too, and social distancing. So there's a lot of limitations that are built around providing services to our citizens that we work with the departments and offices on. Another challenge I think that we're facing definitely is how do we convert face-to-face training to online training. We all know that it's easy in some cases, but very, very difficult in others. And when we do face-to-face training, our classes are right now probably a third to a quarter of what they are because of the social distancing requirement. So we continue to work on that. And we keep responding to more requests on development. So that hasn't really slowed down. Interesting enough, more individuals, both management and non-management, are interested in taking the online classes and also seeing what we have in the face-to-face classes too. That is a very quick overview. And I believe Cheryl Turnus in Human Resources is next, or Human Services, excuse me.
Thank you, Patrick. I just entered my 15th year with Arapahoe County, I'm proud to say. The Department of Human Services is a large department. We have just over 617 full-time employees. We have 5 very distinct divisions that make up the department. We have Child and Adult Protection Services, which also includes a foster care collaborative that we operate with Douglas and Jefferson County, and also a pretty comprehensive adoption program. We have the Community and Child Support Services Division, which houses all of our public assistance programs like Medicaid and food assistance and TANF program, and also the Child Support Services area, which provides legal support for families, for parents who need to pursue a child support order or change their child support, modify their child support order for some reason. We also have a finance division that does all of the accounting and budgeting for the department. We have an operations division that takes care of all of the records and information management. They coordinate the state system security for the department and also do a quality assurance work for the department. We also have a legal division, which is supervised by the county attorney. The legal division handles all of our legal work around dependency and neglect petitions when we need to take custody of children, and they represent us in administrative hearings and adult protection guardianships, as well as they pursue welfare fraud and collections of overpayments from our community assistance area. Next slide, thank you. So Colorado is a state supervised county administered system. It's one of 9 states in the United States that is a fully county administered system. Some states are hybrid, but we are fully state supervised. That means basically the whole department is supervised by the state, in addition to, of course, the Board of County Commissioners, which I'll get to in a minute. But we're supervised by 2 large departments in the state. One is the Colorado Department of Human Services, and the other is the Colorado Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing. Okay, so the Board of County Commissioner responsibilities are in statute. They serve as the Board of Human Services, and the board under Title 26 of the Colorado Revised Statutes are required to appoint a director, adopt an annual budget, establish a human services mill levy to provide funds to carry out the duties and responsibilities, and appropriate and administer the Human Services Fund. All of the programs in the department are mandated by federal or state statutes and regulations. The funding we receive to provide all of these mandated services must be matched with local funds. At least most of them are. There's some small funds that we do get from the state that don't require a match, but for the most part, all of the funds must be matched at an approximate 80-20 rate, meaning that the 80% of the funding is federal and state and the 20% is county funding. All of our work is regulated and requires adherence to federal and state guidelines and framework. For example, in our public assistance area, we are required to or expected to process food assistance applications within a certain period of time. We have to determine eligibility in accordance with various, depending on the program, income and resource guidelines. In our child protection area, we have to visit children in placement every month. And all of those requirements are monitored by the state departments. Also, our department is audited internally as well as by state and federal auditors. We usually have auditors in our workplace on any given day auditing one or more of our programs. So our challenges in the department right now are mainly as a result of COVID or the pandemic. Our caseload has gone up considerably in Medicaid and food assistance, those programs that help to meet a family or an individual's needs when they become unemployed or their income decreases significantly. We are also experiencing, even before COVID, just much more complex cases in our child protection area. Lots of substance abuse, mental health issues, domestic violence, for example. So they're just becoming more and more complex, and now COVID has added yet another layer of that complexity. Our opportunities right now are to capitalize on the ability to work remotely, learn from this experience, and make sure that we are aligning with the functions that we have to carry out and meeting our performance management guidelines. Also, another opportunity is to create more efficiencies across the department through our continued business process analysis. We have a full-time employee who does just that, analyzes business processes and makes recommendations for how we can achieve more efficiencies, streamline the work flow. And also, we are always trying to capitalize on new and innovative technology to help us get the work done. Some major goals that we have right now is we are in the process of establishing a roadmap or a strategic plan to fully implement our 2-generational practice across the department. And basically, 2-generational practice involves working with both adults and children at the same time to identify their needs and what services they may need in order for them to be successful. And then our other large goal is to successfully implement the Family First Prevention Services Act, which is a new federal law, which has really changed the way that we do child welfare across the state. So with that, I will introduce our IT director, David Besson. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl, and good evening. My name is David Besson. I've been with the county just over 8.5 years, having been in the private sector previously. The IT department is responsible for centralized IT operations. Many counties have kind of split IT operations where the sheriff's office has a separate setup, but for many years, IT has been centralized to the county, meaning we're responsible for all hardware, software, desktop services, cybersecurity, systems, servers, networks, and project services. We also assess and lead technology investments in projects, whether we're purchasing off-the-shelf solutions such as SAP or developing software in-house with our small development staff. We support nearly 2,800 computers across the county, and with some of the COVID response, we're replacing several hundred desktops with laptops to enable more and more remote working. We also support about 360 printing devices, some of which are multifunction devices, and some 3,700 phones and call centers. We're currently authorized to have a staff of 73 FTEs, and our annual operating budget, not including the capital budget, but just the operating budget, is just under $16 million. Next slide, Michelle, please. The department is built around 4 divisions. The administrative division is responsible for developing strategy. This is the technology strategy for IT, and also proposing IT strategy or technology strategy for the county as we work with other departments as a whole. We are also responsible in the administration division for developing the annual budget, for capital investment planning, for accounting, paying all of the couple hundred invoices we get every year, and for cybersecurity. We have a business relationship division consisting of business analysts and project managers. They meet with the various departments work to understand their needs, develop project roadmaps and investment schedules. The project managers actually lead the projects when we have them. And we also have a quality assurance group within business relationship that does the QA work to verify the quality of our in-house developed software, as well as to test our commercially acquired software and systems to verify that it's living up to the requirements, as well as to the functions of the software itself. We've developed we called it initially a liaisonship program between IT and all of the departments and offices in the county, where we have approximately monthly meetings with a line of business individual in that department to understand the department's needs. Our third division is the Business Applications Division, which supports all software and modifies or revises the configuration of that software over time. We have approximately 200, slightly over 200 different services we offer. Many of those are focused on individual software solutions, such as the property tax assessment system or the public safety system and so on. And finally, our fourth division is the infrastructure system, which takes care of our systems, our fairly complex network, all of our desktops, and they run a service desk to address user needs. Next slide, Michelle. Thanks. We have numerous major initiatives kind of in flux almost all the time, but our major systems are our public safety systems, which due to recent legislation, is now including an expansion of our body-worn camera infrastructure. But public safety also includes dispatch, which is our 911 services, records, where we capture records related to law enforcement, which is everything from arrest and investigation records to internal affairs, and also jail management, managing the operations of the jail as well as the inmates who are incarcerated. Second major system is our property assessment and tax billing and collection system. Not only do we do the assessments, but we have those over 400 different special districts that we collect taxes for, and we obviously distribute a very, very large percentage of revenue out to those special districts every year. We also have asset management system, which handles the permitting and inspection functions of the Public Works Department and land development in terms of land planning and proposal review. Because we capture thousands and thousands of records every year, we have also an extensive electronic document management system to digitize what may have initially been paper, and to basically archive a lot of those or archive those documents for recall and consultation at a later date. And finally, our probably single largest effort in terms of in-house software development is we've developed a product for Cheryl Turnus's department called HS Connects, which manages a large part of the document management and workflow within Human Services. That product is also licensed to other counties in the state and has generated a modest revenue stream. And now I'll pass it on to Shannon Carter, who is the Director of Intergovernmental and Open Spaces.
Hi, I'm Shannon Carter, the Intergovernmental Relations and Open Space Director, and I'm responsible for the Open Space Sales and Use Tax Program. That, of course, is 25 cents for every $100 spent within Arapahoe County. And as Commissioner Sharp mentioned, it goes exclusively to the Open Spaces program. That is not our only funding source. We also have a small recreation district that we manage and owns a number of different parks within that district. We also have Conservation Trust Fund money that comes to the county, as well as cash in lieu, basically money that gets set aside for park purposes within the county, or within the unincorporated portion of the county. As you mentioned, or as you see on the slide, the open space sales and use tax, the resolution is very prescriptive in regards to how we use the money. 50% of the money is actually shared with the cities, towns, and special districts, or excuse me, cities and towns that are excuse me, within the county. We have an intergovernmental relation, or excuse me, agreement with them for those cities to receive 50% of the money that we receive. Going to the upper right-hand corner, 26.66% is used to acquire open space, to develop trails, parks, and open space areas. 12%, excuse me, of the money is set aside for competitive grant program. And that competitive grants are open to cities, towns, and also special districts that have a recreational purpose. That is, if they do provide outdoor recreation, then that special district would be qualified to apply for a competitive grant. 4.1% is reserved for our designated heritage areas, which we have two. We have a historic, excuse me, a historic Mile House, the 17 Mile House property, which is off of Parker Road and close to the county line. And also the Arapahoe County Fairgrounds is our second designated heritage area. And we also have, of course, the maintenance that is for maintaining any county-owned properties within the Open Spaces program. 3.24% of the money goes there, and 4% is for administrative purposes. Next slide, please. Excuse me. We have over 26 full-time equivalents. We also hire a number, as you would imagine, during the growing seasons and during the summer season. Our staff increases both in our operations side and also in our fairground side. So the 26 FTEs do not include our temporary employees, which vary, depends upon what our needs are. We manage over 5,300 acres of property, and that goes from parks, our newest park, which is in the 4 square mile area, which is close to Florida and Parker Road, just west of the Eloise May Library. That's one of our newest parks, all the way to Deer Trail, which we have the Rich Mill Ranch open space. So our areas of responsibility vary greatly from the standpoint of geographic part. We have some active parks, so we have 7. We've got 5 trailheads, 11 miles of trail, most of which is in the Cherry Creek corridor, as well as with the Highline Canal. We have conservation easements where basically the landowner has given up certain development rights, and they've also agreed not to do certain developments on those properties. We've preserved over 3,500 acres, mostly in the eastern part of the county. We care for and operate, of course, as I mentioned, 2 heritage areas, the county fairgrounds and the historic 17 Mile House Farm Park. And of course, as we mentioned, the fact that we do have a grant program, and just to give you a little bit of information on the amount of grants that we've provided to our cities, towns, and special districts. Our annual grant program for 2018 was over $4.5 million. 2019, it was a little bit less, but again, we've got a number of them. We've had a number of different partnerships with schools, with joint use agreements, partners with cities, towns, and the recreation districts. And of course, we leverage money from the Great Outdoors Colorado or the GOCO funds. for our share back, the share back was this year was close to a little over $15 million that we shared to the cities and towns. We had over 25 different grants and different projects, which included 7 miles of new trails, 12 cities and towns that participated in the program. Over $28 million was collected in the sales and use tax. And so we had a number of different playgrounds that were improved or rebuilt, 5 of them that we did. And of course, again, from an environmental standpoint, we've done a number of different projects along our streams as well as the South Platte River. We've got a number of different enhancements to the quality of life. For example, the environmental projects, Cherry Creek Stabilization, Chatfield. We've got a number of riparian areas that we've funded projects for. And one of the ways in which, as you mentioned, or as you probably observed with the percentages, we have a very small percentage that goes to maintenance. And so the way we're able to maintain such a large number of acreage is that, excuse me, we keep certain properties in agricultural production. And so the money that we receive for that production is put back into the property for maintenance and operations. So we've leased grazing areas to local ranchers and local farmers. And so that's how we are able to kind of leverage the money that we have with maintaining our property. Okay, next slide. So really a lot of the program either directly or indirectly benefits our schools, towns, and recreation districts. Certainly there's a direct benefit to the citizens, the quality of life, health benefits, economic benefits, and certainly education projects. And one of the major projects that we're really working on is the transition of the Highline Canal from a water delivery system into a recreational amenity. We partnered with a 501c3 that is the Highline Canal Conservancy, Denver Water, and all of our cities and towns, 11 jurisdictions that the Highline Canal touches. We partnered with them for really doing a study to making enhancements and improvements and preserving and transitioning that cherished resource into a really linear park or linear recreation area for the community. We did a census estimate. There's over 300,000 people that live within a mile of the Highline Canal, and so it really is a jewel for the metro area. So with that, that's the Intergovernmental Relations and Open Spaces Department. So I'd like to introduce Brian Weimer with our Public Works and Development.
Thank you, Shannon. As mentioned, I'm Brian Weimer. I manage the Public Works and Development Department. I've been with the county for 36 years. Public Works services were considered essential, and as such, we never shut down with the pandemic, nor did we really slow down. And I think that's a testament to the committed and dedicated employees we have working for the department. We had employees in the community on a daily basis, that being our inspectors, building inspectors, our infrastructure inspectors, our road and bridge crews performing maintenance, as well as office staff supporting them and people working remotely within our department. We were able even to make major efficiencies, as one of which that David alluded to, converting our building division to all electronic and a point and pay system where folks did not have to come into the office to make payments of their fees and everything, so they could do that remotely. As you can see on the screen, we have 6 divisions, and I'll talk about those specifically in a couple of slides. You can see what our mission, vision, and our beacon statement is, and our values are strive, and that's service, trust, respect, integrity, and vision, and excellence. And we have guiding principles for the department of professionalism, collaboration, team orientation, accountability and being nimble. I'd like to, and I'm proud of that, we are the only county public works organization in Colorado that is accredited by the American Public Works Association, and we were the 137th accredited organization in North America. We also hold the distinction of having the most model practices of any accredited agency of that organization, and that was with 23. Next slide, please. As you can see, we handle a lot of things. Couple of kids is one. I don't know where that's coming from, but we handle a lot of different diverse services. We have bees and chickens and animal services and support of sheriff during illegal grow operations, where our building inspectors, our zoning and animal control services folks have to support them. Code enforcement, zoning enforcement, land development, building code compliance, and providing safe infrastructure for mobility options.
It's coming.
Okay. Generally speaking, what you see or don't see is what we do. And those are the type of things that we provide. I'll talk a little bit about our individual divisions. And the first would be the building division. And essentially that encompasses anything that is vertical. So any type of vertical structure goes through our building division. They do plan review, permitting, and inspection out of that division. Under the planning division, that's current and long-range planning, zoning and code enforcement. It also includes weed control, and those are the type of things that we handle out of the planning division. We also have in that division, we deal with energy land uses. So oil and gas and solar come out of that division as well. The next division is engineering services. And in that division, that is the engineering support of the land development process. They also have stormwater and floodplain management, right-of-way permitting and inspection. Our environmental process is included within that. And we have our standards that are established within that division too, in the engineering services division. Next is support services. And within support services is all the support for all these other divisions, including our finance and budget, mapping and GIS services that we provide. And we also support that with our assessor's office as well. And we have a performance and management reporting section that also includes business process improvement. And since we're external facing department, we have a lot of different metrics that we measure on a monthly basis that we report on to see how we're tracking with our improvements, our goals, and those sorts of things. We also have policies and procedures that are supported within that division. The Road and Bridge division is our next division, and that is the division that provides all the maintenance to the assets that we have in the county. So our pavement, our gravel roads, bridges, snow removal, right-of-way is all handled within this division. And then finally, the transportation division is the division that deals with capital project delivery, traffic operations, and transportation planning. And the specific services are listed there. I'll go into funding now with the next slide. And right now our budget for 2020 is nearly $34 million. It's made up of 4 funds. The general fund, as Todd talked about, is generally our operational component, pays for salaries and operations of our department. It's everything operational except for Road and Bridge, which has its own fund, as you can see. Our infrastructure fund is our capital improvement program managed by our capital or by our transportation division. This year it's $5.5 million, and that is just county funding. It does not include the federal funds or partnership funding that we have with other jurisdictions. Road and Bridge Fund is for infrastructure maintenance and operations, and then Central Services is for equipment replacement. Just a quick couple of highlights with regard to the Road and Bridge Fund. Right now, property tax has its own mill levy. That mill levy is 0.481 or 4.11% of the 11.685 mills the county has. It's collected countywide, but we share back that revenue 50-50 with the cities. Also within that fund is HUTF funding. This year it was $9.1 million. However, because of COVID, over the next 3 years, we're expecting that we'll have about an $800,000 reduction in what typically we would receive in HUTF funding because of lack of use of driving around and gas taxes being collected. The final is Capital Expenditure Fund. Again, that is a property tax collected countywide, but it is not shared back. It represents about 3.23% of the 11.685 mills that the county collects. But it's not all used for transportation. That is a total mill levy that is used for building maintenance as well as large computer expenditures, and we only get a portion of that. Next slide. The county is responsible, and our department is responsible for about $900 million worth of assets, infrastructure assets. Roads make up about a half of that. There's 1,162 paved lane miles, 460 gravel lane miles. We have 57,000 feet of guardrail, 14,000 street signs, 43 bridges that are 18 feet or larger. Next slide, please. Some of the current issues that we're dealing with is a lack of sufficient and sustainable funding to meet the program goals, primarily in the road and bridge and capital improvement areas. We have an increase in workload over the past few years with growth that we're experiencing within the county. One example of that is just something that we looked at this year. In 2019, in the first 6 months of the year, we performed 12,430 building inspections. This year, we have, in that first 6 months, performed 15,246, and that was during COVID. So that shows that those services were still needing to continue. There's some unintended consequences that we've seen with COVID, and some of that is an increased demand for services and complaints. And I think a lot of that is due to the frustration that the public is dealing with around COVID. I think there's more time on their hands, and there's more time at home, so they're seeing things that they may not like within their neighborhoods, zoning complaints with their neighbors, those sorts of things. Also, we're looking at rural and urban code compliances, and we need to have a different criteria for certain regulations between rural and urban portions of the county. As Commissioner Sharp indicated, we are very diverse in terms of our land uses, and not all regulations fit each one of those diverse locations. We'll be doing reaccreditation this year with 609 practices. Over half of those are really applicable to our department, but we have to review those and update them and get ready for a site visit in January of 2022. And then technology upgrades. We're always looking for ways to be more efficient, and how do we use the resources that we have, and technology is really one of those type of things. And I've talked a little bit about those. We'll have a new project management application and a mobile app for inspections, as well as performing virtual inspections. And thanks to our IT department for partnering with us to do that. Some of the things that we're looking at in initiatives: land use code updates, things such as billboards, recreational marijuana that was mentioned before, weed control ordinance update, our oil and gas regulations are things that we're looking at. Building code modifications we'll be looking at this year and for adoption in 2021. We'll be upgrading our electrical code to 2020 version and our building code to the 2021 version. We'll be also looking at our department fees. They haven't been updated for years, and as part of this, we'll be benchmarking against our neighborhood communities and how these fees are covering our costs. We'll be sending to the Board of County Commissioners for consideration either the end of August or the 1st of September, energy transportation impacts, that being oil and gas and solar. We'll be doing a transportation plan update, and it covers the entire county and looking out to 2040. I invite you to participate in a virtual meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And how to get involved is to look at the county's front page, and there's a link there to join that meeting. We have about $20 million under construction of capital projects, with another 25 million or so to go out to bid within the next couple of months. We completed a local road safety plan that identified 77 safety projects countywide, excluding Aurora, totaling 23 million. 28 of those projects were in unincorporated Arapahoe County, totaling about $16 million of improvements. And the benefit cost ratio for those was in the neighborhood of 2 to 1 to over 12,000 to 1. And then tying our modifications of our standards, policies, and SOPs. We also have a transportation forum that includes 13 cities and counties within the county. They have technical reps and executive committees, elected officials on that forum. That forum is responsible for allocation recommendations of federal funds that the county receives for transportation, and also is an advocacy for non-federal fund cycle years, looking at how do we advance various types of projects. Prior to COVID, this group had a synergy on developing a sustainable transportation funding model for the county, and we're continuing to look at what that looks like. So with that, I thank you, and I'm going to turn it over to our Manager of Strategy and Performance, Manisha Singh.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So Strategy and Performance is the newest and smallest department within the county. We're about 6 or 7 years old. Only 3 people in the department. There's myself, Manisha Singh, and 2 analysts. One is Laura Mazer, and the other position is currently vacant. The department was initially tasked with developing and overseeing the county's performance measurement program, which we call Align Arapahoe. Align Arapahoe comprises primarily of the county scorecard, which you can find on the county website, as well as the department scorecards. With the county scorecard, we track how we perform against our 3 goals of service first, fiscal responsibility, and quality of life. The department has evolved to assist with strategy development and creation of a countywide process improvement program. Key activities that we do are developing and implementing standardized processes, programs, tools, and governance structures to help the county become a more efficient and data-driven organization. Next slide, please. There are 3 key pillars for the department. One is performance measurement. We started applying a couple years ago to the ICM, the International County Managers Association, for a certificate for our performance management program, and we did receive that. So we've had that 2 years in a row now. Within this, what the county is going through right now is kind of revisiting these goals of the county. And once that process is complete, we will revisit the measures within the county scorecard to make sure they align in terms of doing a good job assessing how we are meeting those revised goals. Likewise, we'll work with the departments and offices to ensure alignment on their scorecards as well with the revised county goals. The second pillar is strategy. We conduct the annual leadership workshop every year. Historically, that has been a 2-day program that is at the end of February. There's a recognition within the county that we need to think about strategy on a more regular basis. So we're looking at a new format and delivery of how we deliver leadership workshops. And finally, the last pillar is process improvement. We started implementing this countywide last year, and this is the first full year of implementation. We've had a lot of, as you've heard a lot of people talk about, there have been a lot of changes as a result of COVID. So we've actually had a lot of process improvements across the county in many departments and offices, and we're tracking those. We've created some standardized documentation tools to capture what is changing and what the impact is financially in terms of efficiency or quality for all of those changes. So that is pretty much what we're doing right now. And with that, I'm going to pass it on. I think we move on to electeds now, and clerk and recorder is next.
Hi, everybody. I just want to say thank you for having me, and thanks for attending. I also want to say it's really hard to run for office, and I thank you all for stepping up and running for office. And thank you for being here. And I'm going to go through my departments through the clerk and recorder's office. Yeah, next slide. Thank you, Michelle. Sorry, this is okay. So the clerk and recorder's office is the biggest county office, handling more than 1 million transactions in 2019. We have the recording office, and we have the motor vehicle division and the elections division. Next slide. The recording division is real estate records and titles and transfers. We're doing a lot of refinances right now, so that's part of our revenue right now, big part of our revenue. Marriage license and civil union licenses we do. Passports we did in the past. Since COVID, that's been at a halt. We are not mandated to do that right now, but we will resume services in 2021. We also record the minutes for the BOCC, and the BOCC is the Board of County Commissioners. So every meeting that they go through, we record and put that through our recording department. So anything required as a public record. And in 2019, our revenue was 8 million plus. Next slide, please. Motor vehicle division, we do registration, of course, renewing tags, out-of-state transfers, and also local transfers for titles. Disability parking placards. We handle the busiest office in the state, which is our Aurora office. In 2019, it was 5 million plus as far as our revenue goes. Next slide, please. Our election division, we mail all ballots to voters in the county for every election. We have 3 elections this year in 2020. We call it the regular season, the playoff, and the Super Bowl. So the regular season was the presidential election. The playoffs were, of course, the last election now, the state primary. And now we're in the Super Bowl, which is the general election. We recorded a record-breaking turnout for the primary election, June 30th, and that was at 44%. So in 2018, the state primary, it was only 28%. Next slide. So our challenges as far as the clerk's office, so we are digitizing county records. Currently, you can see online February 1st, 1996. We are in the process of doing 1995 to 1979. Unfortunately, that was delayed due to COVID. They have to bring in a team, which didn't give any room for social distancing, so to speak. And then we're gonna move on to 1978 to 1950. So we're in the process of doing that, and we plan to do the records to 1979 by the end of this year. So digitizing records, of course, is completing the transactions online. Motor vehicle division, we have the kiosks that we have for customers. Right now, we have 6 kiosks in King Soopers throughout the county, and we also have one at AAA. So, and we're trying to get more kiosks so people don't have to come into our office. The elections division is, of course, mail-in voting, which is very controversial right now, but it works, and it also works with the COVID situation right now. We also developed curbside drop-off, which you can call if you spoiled your ballot or did not get a ballot, and you don't even have to go into the building, and they'll drive up. You can drive up and we'll bring out the ballot to you. And that helps with the COVID-19 situation right now. All 3 of our divisions have benefited from our appointment scheduling. We get higher customer processing that we have, and of course, staff satisfaction scores. They're very happy to be able to go home on time. Where right now, before COVID, right now we're we're processing about 75% right now of what we did before COVID. So wait times are really down. We had a 45-minute to 60-minute wait, and now we are down to 10 to 15 minutes in motor vehicle. In the elections division, mail-in voting curbside drop-offs helped with COVID-19. I already said that. And then, of course, if there's any questions, please let me know. And again, I want to say thank you for letting me be here, and thank you for running for office. And I want to know how David from IT got the logo in the corner of his screen. Thanks, guys. Oh, I'm sorry. Now it's on to Sheriff Brown.
Perfect. Welcome, everybody, and I'm glad everybody could be here. I think this is a great opportunity to get a high-level overview of all the county operations. I want to thank all the directors for all of their hard work, and I'm going to pass on our slides to Captain of Special Operations in our Public Safety Bureau, to Captain Ken McClem, and then I will be available for questions and some follow-up when he's done. So, Ken, take it away.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, so the Sheriff's Office Administration, obviously, you just heard from Sheriff Brown. He's the CEO of the organization. He has an executive assistant that reports directly to him, as well as a position that is the head of the North Central Region, which is a region that comprises all the Denver metro counties and cities. And it's an all-hazard region. Its purpose is to try to facilitate cooperation, conduct training, and spend federal grant money through the Homeland Security Department on the region. So that's a shared function. NCR is headed by Arapahoe County, and therefore fall under our policies, procedures as far as the activities they undertake. Directly under the sheriff is Under Sheriff Mark Nycastle. He oversees the 3 bureau chiefs that we have, and those 3 bureau chiefs each command one of the 3 bureaus, which are Support Services, Detention Services, and Public Safety. Support Services Bureau, which is Chief Bob Steff, has under him the Professional Standards section, which includes Internal Affairs, the Concealed Handgun Permit Unit, and the Accreditation Office. The Sheriff's Office maintains 5 different national accreditations, which for those unfamiliar are basically independent organizations that promulgate national best practices. We've been, first accreditation was 1986, so that is not something we've done recently or in response to any recent events. It's fully ingrained in the culture of the agency, and many of the reforms you see now being talked about around the country have long been in Arapahoe County policy as a result of those accreditation standards. He then has an administrative section, which composes the training unit. As you can imagine, in this day and age, pretty much everything we do involves training. So they preside over academies, in-service, promotional academy training for new sergeants, new lieutenants, and civilian supervisors and managers. They also oversee the records unit, which deals with all agency records, criminal reports, information reports, traffic tickets. That unit interacts with state government as well as the courts. And also the public and the media. That's where people go when they want to get a copy of a report for something, either in our lobby or through an online method. We have a civil and warrant section that works with the courts to process civil paperwork. Those can be anything from restraining orders, eviction notices, any kind of civil paperwork that needs to be served. That's a county-wide function that's performed in law by the various county sheriffs in their offices, so that's something that the cities don't do, the municipalities in the county. And they also process warrants for arrests that are issued by the courts, whether they're direct warrants for criminal acts or failure to appear, failure to comply warrants when people are already facing charges for something they've done. Then there's the telecom section. They deal with radio communications for the sheriff's office. So all of the technical side of what our dispatch center does, and then the portable radios that are in the vehicles and that are worn on the hips of the deputies, both in public safety and detentions. Next is the human resource section. The sheriff's office is very large, so they deal with our recruiting, our hiring, our promotional processes, as well as some of our reassignments that are merit-based and open for people to compete for those positions. They preside over all of those functions. Next is finance. They deal with purchasing, procurement, and financial record keeping, managing our budget for us. And the last one in support services is communications. That's the 911 call center that we have here at the sheriff's office that ensures we get help appropriately and promptly as we can to the citizenry when they call 911 or the non-emergency number. Next is the Detention Services Bureau, Bureau Chief Vince Line. It's broken down into operations and administration branches. Each has a captain. Each of those captains have an assistant. Under administration are the courts that deal with the both district and county courts. Inmate services, which are the civilian clerks that do all of the record keeping and paperwork for when people are arrested, released, bonded, and so on. They have classifications, which assigns, basically does a threat assessment based on inmates in the jail, decides what custody level they need to be held in, as well as starts the process for some mental health, potential mental health treatment or what their needs are. Courts also has a sex offender registry branch, which is again required by state law. And then they have the RISE program, which is a program done in conjunction with the state that tries to get people with mental health difficulties ready for trial when they've been charged and otherwise wouldn't be. And then maintenance. The jail and facilities require a continual amount of upkeep, so that's a pretty busy shop. On the operations side, they basically have the teams, the various teams that staff the jail, and then the detention training program, which trains new deputies to take on that role. And finally, public safety. Bureau Chief Glenn Thompson. There's a narcotics team, and then investigations, patrol, and patrol special operations. Investigations are traditionally what you think of as detectives. They also have the crime lab, the evidence section that maintains all our warehouse full of evidence. Fugitive unit, special investigations that does special kind of crimes. Patrol is the men and women who patrol the county and respond to radio calls for service. Patrol also has a crime analyst that collects data and collates it and tries to give us some indication of where our resources could be efficiently spent. And then lastly is my area, which is special operations. That's all the specialized units, everything from the bike unit, the bomb squad, SWAT team, mounted unit, SROs, traffic, unmanned aerial systems. All of those specialized units are under special operations. That's basically, I think, the structure, and then obviously the purpose of the sheriff's office in a county in Colorado. We have two main functions, which is one is to operate a jail, and that jail serves not only unincorporated county and any contract cities, but all the municipalities in Arapahoe County. And then the second is to provide public safety services and keep the peace for unincorporated areas of the county, as well as any contract municipalities that we provide for. So for us, obviously the biggest is the city of Centennial, but we also provide those services to all the smaller towns on the I-70 corridor, the town of Foxfield, at Parker and Arapahoe as well. So those are patrolled by investigations, or patrolled by our patrol folks, and our investigators handle any crimes. Some of our specialized units do have a broader scope, and that's determined by either state or federal interaction. For example, bomb squads. To have a bomb squad, it has to be approved by the FBI. It has to train and equip to FBI standards. So that, by definition, is a regional response team that covers all the municipalities in Arapahoe County, and frequently goes outside of Arapahoe County to perform those functions as well. Now I'll turn it back over to Sheriff Brown.
Captain, thank you. I appreciate it. I know that one of the areas that everybody has been hitting on is COVID response. Our jail has the ability to house 1,458 inmates. Our average daily population is approximately 1,100 inmates. And currently, we've had approximately 595 inmates in custody since COVID started. We've really tried to address the vulnerable populations of the people that we have in custody to make sure that we do not have communal spread. So one of the things that we're most proud about right now is that we've had zero communal spread of COVID through our detention facility. We have had a few inmates come in with COVID, but they were quickly isolated, and we were able to get them moving through the judicial process to make sure that they could get out and receive adequate treatment on the outside. The Office of Emergency Management falls under Captain McClem, and they've done an absolutely tremendous job in providing PPEs. We've provided over 200,000 pieces of PPE to local entities throughout the county. And so we partner very well with all the other elected officials, and I don't know who's next. I couldn't see the agenda, and I was unsure if I was going to be able to make it tonight. So that's why we had Captain McClem do it. So I'm going to ask Michelle to step in and get the next presenter going.
Well, thanks, Sheriff. Our assessor, coroner, and treasurer will not be joining us this evening, but they do have a lot of good information online to provide you should you have any questions. And that's really what we wanted to get to next, is really what questions do folks have? We have some questions in the chat earlier, and so we could go there, but if you'd like to ask a question, if you're on the phone, you need to hit *6, but otherwise, if there are questions, if you could raise your hand, or if you have that feature, or just start asking those questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Well, given that I don't see any questions, I want to thank everyone for attending today, and this information will be available online, the video and the presentation, and we wish you all the best of luck, and thank you very much for attending. Have a good evening.
Good luck, everybody. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.